All right, good morning. Good morning. If you're in the USA, have a fabulous Friday ahead of you. I am Bruce, aka the guy in the blue shirt, as I'm known here on LinkedIn, and my method is simpler, faster, better. And I'm based in the beautiful city of Tempe, Arizona. And our subject today with Rocio is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we have a lot to talk about. And Rocio, why don't you say hi to everybody and let us know where you are tuning in from?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to be here with you, Bruce. I'm joining from Denver, Colorado this week. Very exciting. The weather is absolutely gorgeous out here today.
Uh-huh. Awesome. 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 So let me just do something here. So tell us a little bit about your background, and I am going to see if I can actually get us connected to LinkedIn. It's saying that it doesn't want to play. So you go ahead and chat and let me see if I
Perfect.
can.
I will go ahead and get us started. Well, I
Sure.
would say that my career started very unconventional. I started off mentoring and coaching individuals very early on. I was in my teens, late teens, and started off in university doing diversity and inclusion, ensuring that people were coming into the university that were from different backgrounds,
Hmm.
ensuring that they had everything that they needed. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, it seems relatively like a new term, yet so many of us have been doing it for a very long time. For me, myself, it's been 26 plus years in
Oh,
working with individuals to ensure that they can get in, not only get in to thrive in the environment, because one thing is to invite people, as they say, diversity is one thing, inclusion is a different thing. It's inviting somebody to the party is diversity.
right.
Inclusion is inviting them to dance, and belonging is making them a part of everything that we're doing so that they can be successful. I have a different twist. To me, diversity and inclusion is across the board in everything that we do. What does that look like?
Hmm.
Whether we're on the finance committee, whether we're in whatever department we are, marketing, that it is a lens that we look at life through. And
Right.
one of the things that I love to do as a leader is, in addition to being diverse and inclusive and ensuring that people feel like they belong, is also understanding from the different cultural nuances and everything that goes along with it. And it's also understanding that we have roughly anywhere from 69% of individuals plus in their career may feel like an imposter. How do we bring that into diversity and inclusion? Because you can bring someone in to an organization, and if they feel like an imposter, and this is across the board, it doesn't matter our educational background, our career, culture, anything. I've even had amazing, extraordinary Olympic winners who confess that they have felt like an imposter on a
Hmm.
daily basis, right?
Yeah.
How do we keep that individual inside of the organization in a way that they can thrive, they can succeed in everything that they do? So that's number one. The second part is self sabotage. We
Yeah.
don't talk about that. And we don't talk about, a person can be self sabotaging and not even know it. Again, they're at the party, they're dancing, they're having a great time. And how are they sabotaging? To me, I'm looking at many different areas of them. Are they a perfectionist? Are they somebody that's actually over analyzing things? Are they overindulging in things? And are they working way too much, right? Because that's a way of self sabotage that in time leads to burnout. And what's the
Hmm.
impact to the individual? What's the impact to the family? What's the impact to the organization? Looking at that. And then the third thing that I love looking at is figuring out, where does this person feel psychologically safe? Again, psychological safety is an internal thing, and it's
Hmm.
based on life experience. Do I feel safe to be around these individuals? Now, in order to know those three different things to help individuals belong, we must do the work ourselves.
Yeah.
As leaders, it's important for us to go through and connect and figuring out what makes me tick, what stops me in my tracks. What, anytime that I receive feedback, does that stop me? How are things for me? Because at that level, we have awareness for ourselves and we can develop awareness for others. And I can chat here all day. So I'm going to turn it back over to you because I can go 100 miles an hour.
That's no problem. You're the guest. I think I resolved our technical issue. We'll see. And
Fantastic.
Yeah, I know. It's always the joy of live stream, and you have to be quick on your feet. And actually, I want to do a little shout out to Shri. She reminded me to always put the subject out there when we started, but I'm not certain if it actually got streamed to LinkedIn. So I know it's streaming on YouTube and it will feature there tomorrow. Anyway, that's the technicality. So if you are on LinkedIn and you can actually see the live stream, just say hi to us. We would love you to comment and or ask questions, which we will answer. Sometimes I'm not so good at popping them up on the screen. I just keep it, my method's about simpler, faster, better. And it's interesting because you were saying that, diversity and inclusion seems to be kind of a newer vogue term. But you've been in it for 26 plus years, which is awesome. And in the same way, in my sector of what I do, there's a lot of jargon and acronyms around, and actually I've been in the business of simpler, faster, better, which is just my method name, or more generically process improvement, for 4 decades. So it's, it's amazing how things kind of come and go. And I find it just fascinating how things really ebb and flow, and new names for the same thing. So in all that time, which is amazing that you've been in that sector for so long, what are the misunderstood things about diversity and inclusion? And so that's the first question, and then I'll ask you the reverse question in a minute. So
Most definitely, I think the misunderstood thing is that it's a department. Like, people think, hey, we're going to go ahead and put someone in charge. And like I mentioned earlier, it is a lens in which we see the world through. And it's everything, every aspect of the business, every communication, that it is diverse and inclusive in every aspect. That it is not a department. It is not a person that does it. It is an entire organization. It's a way of being and connecting and seeing people through that lens.
Yeah, so that's a big ask, right? Even in smaller organizations, because I'm guessing you drive right to the culture of the organization in that way, right?
And we do, and to being respectful, to being connected. It is a way of being. It is the organizational culture. Is it diverse? Is it inclusive? It is not a one person thing, and very similar to marketing. We always thought that marketing was a department or a person that did it. And it's the same thing. It's not one department. If someone's not marketing, if somebody's not being inclusive in that take, how does that impact the organization? Not only the organization, how does that impact first and foremost the individual, the people on that team, the people inside of that organization, and also even the clients? What is the impact? Because clients want to see, do people are they like me? Is this organization being inclusive? And we're at a day and time where, if companies, and we know this instantaneously, someone does something that they're not supposed to be doing, we see it all over the media. Right? Individuals are very vocal. We're like, hey, this organization's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and even being called out on things that we may or may not be doing. For instance, I've been a guest on to be a keynote speaker, and here I am as a keynote speaker publicizing that I'm speaking at this event, and people are actually being very vocal and saying, hey, this doesn't seem very diverse and inclusive. How can we do that? And although it was diverse and inclusive, it wasn't to the degree that it could be. And we made those adjustments right away, right? Because that's who we are, that's what we promote. And any of the work that we do, doesn't matter whether I'm right there in front of an individual delivering a keynote, organization, whatever that may be, or even in the work that we're doing. It is diversity and inclusion is it.
Right, absolutely. And I have a little phrase that people have heard me say many times over, and I think it drives some people nuts as well, which is, you have to be the product of your own process, right? If you're not that, or if you're not willing at least to strive towards that, then you have a problem right off the get-go, right? So, and as you mentioned, if it's, even if it is being diverse and inclusive, if it doesn't look that way, then that's a big issue, right?
And that's why it's so important to have people in the entire organization, the marketing department, to know that, okay, it's not just the Department of Diversity and Inclusion, the person in the title, that it is the person in finance, the person in marketing. What lens are they looking through it, and is it representative of what the organization is sharing with the world?
Yeah, because each person or each part of the organization should always reflect the core culture of the organization and any values that it has, and also any non-negotiables as well. So it's interesting you talked about the internal work that we must do first, and the last 3 months for me have been internal work, like crazy. And what was interesting for me is I was actually working across my non-negotiables without realizing it, and hey, people would see it, and they were too kind very often to not tell me. So so that's the other thing, right? You have to have that open, trustworthy conversation so you don't hurt people's feelings as well. So
Right. And then to also be authentic, right, in a way that it's empathetic. How do we connect with individuals when things aren't going? And this is in general across the board with communication. How do
mhm.
we be empathetic? And if we're not doing our work, it's going to show up elsewhere. And
Yeah.
here's a perfect example. At one point in my life, in my career, I was go, 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 like get the work done, get the work done. And I remember one of my coaches brought it up to my attention and said, how's that working out for you? And I realized that at that point it wasn't working out, because however I see myself, I expect from others, right?
Right.
If I expect myself to be go, 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 work and take care of things right here, right now, I expect that from others. Instead of taking a step back and saying, hey, maybe I must check in with this person. How is this person doing? What are they doing? How is it working out for them? Whatever that may be, that communication that's lacking, how about we have that here now and be honest? Because whatever it is that we repress,
hmm
we don't express, we end up repressing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and that could be in a very subtle way. Again, when we do our own work on ourselves and figuring out, and we all have something, whether, I don't think I've met anyone in my career that didn't either have a way of self-sabotaging or a way of feeling like an imposter or not feeling psychologically safe or whatever that may be. I've worked with individuals who earn 70 million, lose it, 10
hmm
million, 2 million, it does it. You throw in its number. Right.
Right.
And it's something that they're doing inside of themselves that is having an external result, yet the work is internal, the results are external.
Yeah. And it's the hardest work as well. For me, it's been the hardest work. I don't know about other people, but um, and then the other piece of that is to also make sure you don't make assumptions around where somebody's at, or their status or their mindset, because unless you ask those questions, and sometimes you have to be careful, of course, how you ask the question, you're not really going to know. So you can be misled by what somebody's exhibiting on the outside versus what's really happening on the inside.
And asking questions, I think that's one of the most important things, that we underestimate the power of questions. What would it look like if we were to ask questions? How are you? What does that mean to you? What a
hmm
perfect question. What does that mean to you? Because we hear a comment, and at the end of the day, I can tell you that it's very superficial. I do a lot of leadership coaching in conjunction with the diversity and inclusion work. And here's one of the things that I've discovered in my career. You could have given me, for example, this amazing individual that I was working with. You could have given me $1 million a minute that I spent with her, and I would have never figured it out. Okay. I would have never figured it out. What I discovered in my questioning process was what impacted her, how it impacted her, how it's impacting her, and what she tied into what it meant. Okay. So at the end of the day, we were able to discover in 25 minutes, it had to do with the black horse, grandma, her not feeling worthy, and the middle of the night. How did that impact her career? She didn't feel confident. She didn't feel like she belonged. She didn't feel like she was worthy of having the success. She had resentments. And at the end of the day, when she did her work on that, wow, she became a superstar. She went from earning $300 to $400 a week on average to having the capacity to uplift her business.
Mm-hmm.
The tune of the last project that I heard she was working on was $25 million. Okay.
Yeah.
$25 million project. Years later, here she is, super rock star, confident, ended up going and landing the job of her dreams, ended up going back to university, ended up going in and taking her own personal health and fitness. And in addition to that, saving her marriage, all these different things that there's an impact when we do the internal work. And you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about, because we have gotten to do our own internal work. And it's an ongoing process from now until forever. To say that I've done it and I'm done with it is an understatement, because it's not. It continues. There's always a level.
Yeah, I call it my daily dose of realism. You know, and some days I think I've done really good, but you know, obviously I haven't, because sometimes I don't get to where I want to be. But hey, you know, life is not always a straight line; it's a zigzag. And it's funny, because when I look at doing process improvement, I try and take a look at a process, no matter if it's big or small. But I look at it like I'm looking into a bowl of spaghetti, right? Because you know, the spaghetti starts off nice and straight in the nice packaging, and you throw it in the bowl and you cook it all up, and before you know it, it's all tangled up and all mishmashed. And it's funny, because that's what happens to either people's individual or bigger processes, company processes. And it's amazing how quickly it can get all scrambled up and tangled up. And unless you have somebody that can go in there and say, okay, well, what's this bowl of spaghetti? You know, what's this strand doing in there? What about if I pulled that one out and realigned it in some way? And so that visual to me is always representative of really daily life, right? We're all in that. And I think we can all relate to that analogy. You know, if I get up tomorrow morning and, you know, what does my bowl of spaghetti look like, right? And how can I tidy it up a little bit, right?
Right. And that's fascinating. You know, it's something, even talking about the diversity and inclusion in that, like, how do we tie all that in to when we're looking at that? Roughly about 93% of leaders, it said that 93% of leaders don't feel like they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to lead. How do we expect them to, right? And in that they don't feel psychologically safe. I get it. I get to see it all the time, every day. And it's always a great pleasure when people actually get it. It's like, oh, I have control. I can change something about this. And they start making those changes. The impact is amazing. The ripple effects. And then when we start to look at, you know, from a racially and ethnically diverse companies, that we see that individuals want that, you know, people inside of corporations, like, they get it, you know, 35% more likely to perform even better, right? When we're diverse and inclusive, that when we have diverse teams, we have 70% more likely to capture new markets. What does that look like, right? We want to see people that look like us, that connect with us, that are from different cultural backgrounds. It's something that people are fascinated by. We want to be inclusive. When we see that diverse teams are 87% better at making decisions, what does that look like? That we get to see it not just from a diversity of thought. Diversity of thought is extraordinary. And we get to see it from a diversity of experience, culture, ways of being, ways of doing things. How amazing is that? And to even know that companies that are inclusive are 120% more likely to hit their financial goals. What a concept. Because we have these different ways of thinking.
Sorry, there's a slight delay, and so I don't mean to keep cutting you off.
That's okay.
To me it's fascinating, because I always say, and I didn't know all of your background, and I always find it amazing that we're all more alike than we are disalike. And you know, way back in my earlier career, one of my specialties was leading and facilitating what I call cross-functional teams. And the piece that you talked about there, and the piece that I used to focus on, was that, you know, that well blended or that diverse and inclusive cross-functional team once they got to work on the actual solution to a problem, they were amazing. They would come up with all this, all the ideas that, I could never have dreamt up in 1,000 years. I could have been working on the problem, and yet they'll just like say, well, what about this? Or how about we do this? Or, they'll throw a lot more ideas on the wall and see what sticks, as I used to call it, and see what slides off. There are obviously contenders and non-contenders for solutions to problems. And yeah, so it's fascinating to me that, I've been doing that for a long time, and what I've been doing, and yet, your description of and your knowledge of diversity and inclusion is almost identical to what I used to do with those cross-functional teams. And the other piece for me was that those cross-functional teams used to teach me, what I call no box thinking. So, a lot of people will say, oh, well, you've got to think out of the box. But to me, the fact that you're out of the box, it describes some structure or some shape to that. Whereas if you can get into a really higher and open-minded plane of, what if there was no box? What if anything is possible? What if any options available, right?
Right. And it's so fascinating that you talk about the whole innovation aspect of it. Companies that are inclusive are 1.7 times more likely to be more innovative. What do we need? And there's research out there. You pull whatever research we want. But one of that I'd like to point out is that 60% of leaders want individuals to be creative. What does that look like, right? Because at the end of the day, you and I have been brought in to organizations. Why? Because people are not moving at the level that they can be moving. They're not seeing their potential. They're not taking on their leadership. They don't feel confident. They feel like an imposter, whatever that may be. They're at the table and they're not performing, right? And what does that look like? They have an idea. They don't feel confident. And that idea could be changed.
Yeah.
Or an extraordinary change. And we've gone from a time in our recent past from going from competition. We saw each other as competitors instead of an organization. What does that look like, right? To collaboration. Yes, we're going to be working together. And now where we must co-create, we're beyond collaboration. What is co-creation? Co-creation means that we all get to come to the table, have a conversation, and be open-minded about what we're hearing and be able to create in that moment, right? Because at the end of the day, when you win, I win. When we win as a team, whether I'm impacting the marketing team or the finance team or whatever team it is that we're working on and impacting and contributing to others, when we can see each other's, I love the term as Ubuntu. What does that mean? To be able, that I see me and you. And when I see me and you, I see that the impact in me, you help me, I help you, we help each other. We're all going to succeed together.
Yeah, and actually,
that's what it's about for me.
And actually, I actually like 𝐶𝐷, and I was going to throw another one in there that, the more consultative you can become, it's kind of a little different than the old collaboration approach. And it's funny, people will say, well, we don't have time to consult everybody, and it's not about consulting everybody. It's consulting and being consultative and collaborative with the main stakeholders in in whatever it is you're looking at. And that's the other misnomer. Even though my method is called simpler, faster, better, what I find, particularly when you want to go faster, you actually have to slow down to really appreciate what is really happening before you can, eliminate either the roadblocks or the waste or whatever it is that's not allowing you to go as fast as the organization could. And that's confusing for people. You have to slow down before you can go quicker. And I don't know if you see that in your setting up of what's positively coming out of, the movement of diversity and inclusion. So do you want to talk about the positive aspects of what you see?
I think the positive aspects is that, given with COVID, okay, we've all experienced it on a global scale. There's a much greater level of empathy, compassion. We're in this boat together. We're seeing so many different people that are tapping into what they want to do. What I
Hmm.
see moving forward in a diverse and inclusive, I see people collaborating in ways and co-creating in ways that we could have never imagined, coming up with
Right.
solutions, coming
Yep.
up with life-changing products and services that are going to be transforming this world from now until forever. The ripple effects you and I will feel, our children's children will feel of what we're doing today. The
Right.
difference in bringing in this whole collaborative way of being, this whole inclusive way of being, and ensuring that people are all part of it. And when a person feels part of something, they contribute at a greater level that they didn't even know they could, right? And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
part of it. And I see that a lot more organizations are coming on board and saying, hey, we haven't been diverse and inclusive. How
Hmm.
can we get there? And at the same token, I invite organizational leaders to take another look and say, hey, who else can contribute into this? Because some of us may have already been doing diversity and inclusion work, and it's not a department, right? It's not a
Right.
one person thing. What I see in the future is individuals collaborating. I remember that whole melting pot aspect back in the day when I was in university first. I take it from this sense, when we all bring our thoughts, when we all bring our humanity to work, when we all bring what's important to us, starting with human first, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Honor each other, that we connect with each other. What I see is that we're going to get to know people that we would have never gotten to know. We're going
Hmm.
to have insights, whether they're cultural beliefs, whatever that may be. We're going to shift our way of being, our way of thinking, our way of doing, and it's across the board for everyone. Whether it's me as a Latina or somebody else from a different culture or whatever that may be, here we are. We're going to start looking at things. And one of the things I love so much, my place looks like the United Nations when we have parties. And it's what it's always looked like. What I'm
Hmm.
fascinated by is that I get to learn how people do things
Yeah.
differently with the same object. Okay, here we go. A piece of paper is used in one way here in this country. Yet over there, maybe they're shielding children from the sun. Who knows? Maybe even a paper clip of how that's used. And I know every time I go to different countries, I'm like, wow, like I love that. Now I have more tools in my toolkit. It's not one way of doing things, it's many ways of doing the same thing.
Yeah. So it's funny because I used to liken talking about, the importance of cross functionality or diversity and inclusion. It's like baking a cake, right? Somebody, if you put out 10 ingredients that are common to cake baking, not that I'm a baker, but the analogy is you can put out the 10 ingredients and yet each individual will bake a different cake, number one. Number two, it will taste completely differently. Number three, it will often look completely different. So, that whole cake making with the same ingredients is real similar to how people use stuff. And that's what I love about, what I get to do as a host as well. I tell people I go to global university twice a week, because the diversity of guests, and I purposely reach out to different people for, different inclusive thoughts and learning about their experience. And I've been lucky. I've worked in 5 different countries, and so I would recommend if anyone's not sure about how to get to feel a little bit more diverse and inclusive, go take yourself to an underprivileged country and go work there for a few months, even if it's for a few months. I mean, you will be amazed at the total resourcefulness of people and how, and like you said, how they use different objects, like, the paper clip, the piece of paper. It can be simple: piece of paper, rubber bands. The rubber bands are the ones that I find fascinating, that people can,
Right?
they use them like almost as strong as metal in many ways when you put enough rubber bands together. So amazing.
And that's
All
a
right. So,
fascinating thing right there. I'm going to share one more thing, and my
sure.
apologies. I'm like so excited to share all these things.
For it.
I love the fact that people can look at it when we bring somebody who's diverse and inclusive into a new environment, how do we allow them to bring all of that? Like the
Right.
psychological safety, first and foremost. When they do feel safe, they can bring those solutions to the table
Yeah.
because And it's not just, it's that solution that solves the problem, but also here's one solution, here's another solution. What's created here to me is what Napoleon Hill used to call the third mind, right? That
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to create something completely different in that together.
Yeah. Actually, I've forgotten about Napoleon Hill's thought on that. So again, a great example. I always say to people, there's nothing really new. There's always just new ways of doing things. So the human factor. All right. Well, we are live on LinkedIn. Finally, it caught up to Rue from is in the comments, and he is saying yes. She introduces information from my platform to theirs, so I'm much appreciative of that, and does it consistently weekly. So thank you for that public shout out of thanks. All right, so I know you've got a lot of things going on, and you're a busy lady. So what is April Fool's Day, right? So I
It
won't ask
is
full joke.
fascinating.
I have a post for April Fools. I'm debating whether I do it or not, but talking to you, I may just throw it out there. We'll see. So what do you have coming up in quarter two? Quarter two already of 22. My goodness.
Wow, isn't it amazing how fast quarter two is coming along? Well, I have an amazing game. I gamified my leadership development course, and to be able to level the playing field for anyone. Leadership to me is something that everybody has an opportunity to do. It's not just for people who can afford it or companies that can buy it for their employees. It is for everyone. What we built is the Mindshift Game, and the Mindshift Game helps people take courageous actions, build their confidence, expand their vision to really what they want. It's not what mother, father, teacher, preacher, whoever wanted it for them. It's what they truly desire. Because you and I know we meet a lot of people mid-level career who didn't want to do this, right? We have the attorney turning into the baker. We have the doctor turning into the massage therapist. We have the teacher turning into whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, the stories are out there over and over again. How do we expand that vision and tap into our own vision? And then by that, reclaiming our power. What does that look like for individuals to reclaim their power, to be able to connect and elevate their energy? Because a lot of the times, if we're in the wrong field, in the field that wasn't one of our choosing, or something that we're no longer passionate about. Let's be frank, at some points I've been in my career, like, I love what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, like, find myself burned out. I'm like, no, I don't love what I'm doing. Being honest with yourself. So we have this amazing game, and we have a community. It's a physical board game where people can see their progress, track it, start to develop themselves in ways that they could have never imagined. We have people that are taking bold actions like they've never taken before, asking for that job promotion. They're taking that trip that they never thought that they could. As a single mother, buying their second beach home, all these different things that are happening for individuals. Well, we've gamified it. And now we have that board game, and we have a community under a membership site that we're launching. Where in addition to that, so that's coming out in May, so next month. And then we're also launching 4 books this year. One of them is The Hispanic Journey, Leadership, Tenacity, and Grit. And we're talking about diversity and inclusion. We're talking about what people are bringing to the table and the changes that they've made, the impact that they've made because of the way that they think and see and view the world, bringing their whole humanity with them. And in addition to that, bringing their whole life experience with them. What does that look like? That is a book about 20 amazing individuals from around the world that bring in their thoughts and insights and things that companies want to know, leaders want to know. So that's one of the books. We have a book titled Ripple Effects that will also be coming out this year. And that's been fast-paced, fascinating as well. And a couple of other books as well that will be coming out. And those are more quarter 3, quarter 4. One of them is my memoir, which is titled Unapologetic. And that's about owning all of our life experience, my life experience, and being okay with the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything in that life experience.
Right. Awesome. So what's the best way for people to get that information? You have a website you can drop into the comments after?
Yes, definitely. We do. We have a couple of different websites. One of them is the Mindshift Game. So we can go ahead and drop that in there as well. And then the other one that we have is Inventiva Consulting. And you can go ahead and reach me through that, or Rocio at Inventiva Consulting. I'm on
Right.
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can call me directly, 303-587-8367, 303-587-8367.
All right, great. I will. I'm not adapt enough on 2 devices because I get feedback. Either you and I can drop that into the comments. And again,
Oh, perfect. I am dropping in right now the Mindshift Game in there. And I'm also
okay.
dropping in Inventiva Consulting. And Inventiva actually started, I'm going to share with you a quick story. I was at a point in my life, I had the car, the kid, the education, the everything in my life. I was rocking it.
Mm-hmm.
I was 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I found myself in the same place that a lot of my clients have found themselves in a career that I didn't want. I was simply chasing money, chasing time, chasing whatever. And I wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled. And then I had one of the hugest blessings. What became one of the hugest blessings was one day waking up literally as I turned 34 and being disoriented, which led me into an emergency room. And 10 days later led me into discovering that I had a brain tumor.
Oh my goodness.
And that
Wow.
woke me up. And I asked myself, what would I do for the rest of my life besides chasing money, right? That's where I was at. And I was like, okay, what would I do? And for me,
Right.
it was, I would continue to help people so that they can discover what makes their heart sing. And this is the space where I commit the rest of my life. So Inventiva is the creation of something new, the
Awesome. I
invention
love
of
it. All right. Well, you've been a fabulous, insightful, mindful, full of information. So the Mindshift Game, that's a great name. I love good names for things. So thank you. And again, if you watch this as a replay, you can drop your questions in, no problem at all. Or if you're a little bit shy, you can reach out to us individually for anything that we might have talked about. So if you just hang a little bit, I'm going to do a quick outtake, my little selfish plug I have on a little video here. So it says, like, yeah, I know. Otherwise I forget to say the right thing.
So, what if your processes do not work well? Did you know you can save or eliminate massive amounts of wasted steps, time, money, or other resources? Bruce can show or teach you how. Take the next step. Visit his website at processcleanup.com and book a casual yet confidential call with Bruce. It just might change your world forever.
See, my logo is the spaghetti a little bit more organized.
I love it.
Yeah, that moving logo. So, and again, I just want to do a last shout out for the shirts. My shirts are sponsored by Jacqueline Quinette's marketing and promotional products company. And actually, I spoke to Jacqueline on a walk last night, and she's talking about being more diverse and more inclusive. She's just branched out in her business. So there's going to be more to follow on that, including a few more new t-shirts for the summer here in Arizona. So
Wonderful.
yeah, I know. I got great connections. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, and it was a delight. So I will get you everything, from the replay, etc. And take care up there.
Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you today, and looking forward to staying connected and making an impact together.
Hey, you never know. More collaboration to come, possibly,
That is so true. Wonderful.
All right, just hang for a minute. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.